Before Cannae became a byword for disaster, before Teutoburg haunted emperors in their sleep, there was a Roman defeat so crushing that the city itself trembled and then tried to forget. It did not happen in Italy, nor in the well-mapped fields of Latium, but far away on the banks of a wide, patient river in southern Gaul, where pride met steel and pride broke. They called the place Arausio. At that time, Rome believed itself unbreakable. The Senate boasted of provinces stitched to the Republic like trophies on a laurel crown. Legions marched like clockwork, disciplined, drilled, inevitable. And then came the wanderers, tall, fair-haired peoples from the north, the Cimbri and the Teutones, a moving nation dragging wagons, women, children, and elders. They carried with them not only spears and shields, but their homes, their gods, and a hunger for land. To some Romans they were barbarians, to others an omen that the gods had grown tired of arrogance. The Republic sent 2 armies to stop them, 2 commanders, 2 camps, and one problem Rome never solved with a sword: pride. Gaius Marius Maximus was consul, a man of new blood who had clawed his way upward through competence, not ancestry. His colleague, Quintus Servilius Caepio, was old patrician stock, certain that nobility alone gave him the right to command. Each led thousands of men. Each wanted glory. Neither would yield. Between their camps flowed the river, broad, silent, and indifferent. Between their souls flowed something darker. Across the water, the enemy waited. They were not raiders or a skirmish band, but a people under arms. A mobile nation with its families in ox-drawn circles, its spearmen standing guard through the night. They had beaten Roman forces before. They were not afraid of red tunics anymore. What breaks an army first? Steel, or the certainty that its generals despise each other? Caepio refused to share supplies, plans, or even meetings. A nobleman, he thought, does not take orders from a nobody. Rome had conquered continents. It could not conquer its own vanity. Dawn came cold. Dew clung to the grass like tiny shields. From Caepio's camp rose the sound of horns, sharp, eager, hungry for credit. Without waiting for the consul's signal, without coordination, Caepio marched his legions to strike the enemy camp alone. Across the river, Maximus's men stared in disbelief. Dust plumes rose, glittering with sunlight. Messengers ran to the river's edge shouting, their voices lost to the steady hiss of the current. Caepio saw before him a wall of wagons, a circle of wood and iron, wheels half sunk in soil, a makeshift city turned fortress. He imagined a quick victory. Barbarians routed, wagons aflame, his noble name sung in Rome. He imagined wrong. The wagon circle opened like a jaw. Out they came, lines of tall men with oval shields and heavy axes, hair limed and pale, eyes bright as northern ice. They advanced, not as a mob, but as a tide with teeth. Horns bellowed from the wagons. Women beat shields with ladles and shrieked curses that carried across the field. The ground itself seemed to move. The first impact sounded like 100 doors slamming. Pilum met shield, shield met bone. The lines heaved, standards dipped and jerked. Caepio shouted for the push, for the break, his voice lost in the wind. Training met hunger. Guess which tires first? The Roman line bowed, then split like a rope under too much strain. You don't hear your death approach in such a battle. You feel it. Hands slipping, armor rattling, earth turning to glass beneath your feet. Centurions screamed, hold the line, close the ranks, but gaps are mouths, and mouths will be fed. Caepio's vanguard folded. A sentry's banner fell. When the first cohort turned, not to charge, but to survive, the rest learned a cruel truth. An army is not a wall of men, it's a shared belief. Break that belief, and the wall is already gone. Across the river, Maximus saw disaster shimmering like heat. He could have waited. He could have saved his strength. He did not. He gave the order to cross and save his rival. The river received them cold, armor filled with water like a second skin. Men stumbled on slick stones, shields high against arrows that hissed and thudded like thrown birds. By the time they reached the far bank, breath steamed, nerves burned. Drums called them forward. They advanced into a battlefield already dying. Imagine the view. To your front, a curtain of dust torn by running men. To your left, a Roman eagle standard spinning away like a leaf in current. Ahead, a golden torque flashing on an enemy's neck as he turns with the grace of a butcher. The air tasted of iron and wet leather. Maximus pushed his line in anyway, trying to stitch two torn fabrics into one cloak in a hurricane. For a heartbeat, it worked. Pila flew, shields thudded, barbarian lines staggered. Then the wagon circle opened again, and the tide surged. The Cimbri did not fight like tidy diagrams. They swarmed, sang, laughed. Yes, laughed. When a centurion's staff cracked across a face but failed to hold them. They fought for their families within earshot. Failure was not an option. Their kings rode where shouting was thickest, their gestures meaning, now left, now through, now break them. What breaks a legion second? Fear, or the knowledge that its comrades died for nothing? Men looked back and saw the river had become a wall. Between enemy and water, courage suffocates. The space was shrinking. Maximus fell back step by step, ordering a measured retreat that turned into chaos. Standards vanished. Officers died trying to hold the shape. The lines curved, then snapped. You could trace the flight in the churned earth, the arcs and hooks and dead ends where men turned to fight and were erased. What happened next, the river remembers best. Men threw themselves into it. Iron and hope. Hope floated. Iron did not. Shields became boats until they filled. Friends became weights when they clutched your neck. On the banks, javelins fell like rain. A few made it across. Most did not. By afternoon, the field was no longer a place, but a condition. The noise faded into questions for gods too far to answer. The wagon circle opened once more, and women came to tend and to end. Mercy is a Roman word. It had no translation there. When the sun finally tilted, the truth stood bare. 2 Roman armies destroyed in one day. Not by Hannibal's cunning or Carthaginian brilliance, but by Roman hatred of Roman, and by enemies who refused to play the part of barbarian properly. The river slid on, carrying reeds, shields, and stories no one wanted to tell. Back in Rome, terror outran horses. Mothers whispered in doorways. Senators stared at maps as if the ink could soften the truth. The Republic had been wounded before, but this wound bled pride. The city turned to a soldier with a farmer's face and a mind like iron. Gaius Marius. He took the shattered mirror of Rome's army and reforged it. Professional soldiers, standardized gear. The eagle made sacred, the camp made home. He drilled the legions until their backs learned new memory, until they feared dishonor more than death. But remember, the fire that forged those reforms was lit at Arausio. Why is this battle forgotten while others gleam in infamy? Perhaps because it had no hero, no clever trick, only a lesson about arrogance too close to home. Perhaps because Rome prefers stories where fate is kind, or because the river swallowed the evidence and left only silence. Yet if you stand near the water at Orange when the wind is right, you can almost hear it. The clash, the horns, the wagons. And beneath it all, a conversation Rome had with itself and lost. How many lives fit into the space between two men who would not shake hands? Empires are not only undone by enemies, they are undone by the fractures they carry into battle. A split plan, a split command, a split soul. The Cimbri and Teutones did the cutting, but Rome handed them the knife. Arausio shocked the world because it showed Rome at its worst. Powerful, brave, and fatally proud. And when pride met the river did not move. So now that you know the story Rome buried beneath louder legends, ask yourself, which defeats shape us more? The famous ones we celebrate, or the forgotten ones that quietly remake us? For Rome, the answer is written in water and iron. For us, it is a warning carved in memory. If this story stirred you, leave a like, subscribe, and share it with someone who still believes pride can hold a line. And if you want to see how fear, not laws, kept the empire together, the next video waits on your screen. May history never stop haunting you.